Phil walks the tree line when the sun goes down. Boots in the gravel on the edge of town. Backpack rattles with a lantern and a map, looking for the things that never make the trap. Old folks whisper when they see him pass. Boys been chasing shadows in the midnight grass. But Phil just smiles at the cold night air, 'cause something out there knows he's there. In the rustle of leaves, in the creak of the pine, in the fog where the footprints twist the line. He's the Dogman Teepee Hunter, roaming through the night, chasing ghostly echoes in the pale moonlight. From forgotten forests to the deserts deep, where the old bones hide and the spirits creep. With a camera and courage and a trail to see, he'll follow any legend through eternity. Yeah, the world's full of whispers most folks never see, but they all know Phil. He slept in ruins where the cold winds cry, watch strange lights dancing in a cold black sky. Track bent branches where the tall grass sways, heard something breathing in the forest haze. Every dusty road and every haunted bed holds another secret he's about to defend. And when the fire burns low and the coyotes sing, you can bet he's hunting something strange again. Through the static and dark, through the myth and the lore, there's a howl in the hills he can't ignore. He's the Dogman Teepee Hunter, roaming through the night, chasing ghostly echoes in the pale moonlight. From forgotten forests to the deserts deep, where the old bones hide and the spirits creep. With a camera and courage and a trail to see, he'll follow any legend through eternity. Yeah, the world's full of whispers most folks never see, but they all know Phil. But they all know Phil. Maybe it's a shadow, maybe something real, maybe ancient footprints only he can feel. But the truth lives somewhere past the tree line bend, and Phil won't stop until the very end. He's the Dogman Teepee Hunter, roams into the trail, following the stories in the midnight gale. Ghosts in the rafters and beasts in the pines, calling out his name through the ancient signs. And if you hear a howl where the campfires be and a lantern swinging through the cedar trees, that's a hunter chasing mysteries. That's Phil, running wild and free.
Yeah, feel running wild and free indeed. Very welcome, everybody. Dogman Teepee Hunting. So pleased you could make it here, really am. It's a bit of a funny one. It's a Monday. Last time I looked, anyway. It was, yeah, it is a Monday. Um, but we have a very special show. Special person, special show. I weren't going to miss it. Definitely not. The opportunity. I'm going to bring on first off. Got co-host Natalie. We have been away. Went on a CE5 Rendlesham 1980s. If you remember the Rendlesham UFO, if you just crawled from under that stone, it is very famous forest. So we decided, you know what? Yeah, we're going to go there. I jumped at that chance as well, especially the CE5 group, because it was kind of like a perfect storm for me, if you like. Absolute perfect storm. But I'm going to bring Natalie up. Let's have a look. 3, 2, 1. Hello.
You're right.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. You're looking well.
Yeah, I spent about 3 days sleeping after we got back from Rendlesham. It really wiped me out.
Did it? Yeah, it was quite hot as well, wasn't it? It's quite warm.
Yeah, I think, for me, it was a perfect storm of camping and a migraine and sort of like the excitement of being somewhere else. So,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I'm too old to cope with excitement now. I need calm.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was excited because it was World Purchase Night, which was World Purchase Nacht,
Yes,
which
it
is
was, wasn't it?
my pronunciation is absolutely tragic, but I do try. Um, So that was one thing, where the veil is meant to be at its thinnest, the twin with Halloween, as it were. The time when Big Nick says, I'm going to go on at 1830s, sayonara, and the witches and all the ghoulies and ghosties come out of the wood. So I thought that was a great opportunity to get down Rendlesham and to go with Chris and the CE5 group, because as they were doing their meditation, and we were actively involved in meditation as well, weren't we? We thought, we'll just like kind of see if it will kick things up a bit, and actually, it did. It actually did. So I was quite happy about that. Yeah, that was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was good. I can't say that I saw any big UFOs or little green men come out and sort of. We didn't get any probing, did we?
No, well, I don't know whether it's unfortunate or fortunate, depending upon which way you lean. But yeah, when we
Yeah, it
heard you
depends on
passing
which way they
through,
were probing, really. But no, I was, in a way, looking forward to it. From a purely scientific point of view. I wanted to see, exactly what they get up to and the point in the probing, as it were. Pardon the pun. But
there was one point where you went really quiet because you went off in the woods, didn't you? And there was loads of lights flashing, and we were like, "Are those lights Phil?" And then there was like a noise, and then it went, and your walkie-talkie stayed quiet for a while, and I was sitting there thinking, has they been taken?
yeah,
Should I use the walkie-talkie and check, or has he just fell over? He's just
yeah,
tripped over a log in the woods, and it's like I'm not going to go look for him in the dark.
no,
You
I
came
don't
back
think
in
anyone would.
it,
No, no. I wasn't going to hold my breath if I did fall over or get eaten by
Had to
Dogman. I
come
wasn't going to hold my breath.
eventually. I did notice you'd gone quiet for a change. So we were just sitting there relishing the peace for a bit. And then I was like, perhaps we should go see if Phil's all right.
Anyway, we've got a fabulous guest on this week. Absolutely, a guy I've been listening to for years and years and years, and I know a lot of other people have as well. And just a fantastic guy because he's helped so many people. And anyone that has listened to his show, which is Dogman Encounters Radio, will know this Vic Cundiff. He's an absolutely lovely guy, and he's been doing it for many years. I think I could be wrong. 2006, 2007, probably am wrong. I very often am wrong, but I'm sure he'll put me right on that. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to bring him up right this moment, and I'll shuffle him around on stage. Let's have a little look. Hello, sir.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Hi,
no.
pleased to meet you.
Oh, it's great to meet you. Would you be the best person to talk with, Natalie, to get some good dirt on Phil here that I could use to hold over his head to get some ransom payments out of him?
Quite possibly. Send me a message after the show and I'll see if I can come up with something.
I'll count on it.
Or just tell him to his face, to be honest. That usually works when I do it.
Yeah.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were going to say, sometimes Phil does like talk a little bit, and I was going to make this little card with a little waffle on it and just hold it up every time it got a bit. But I've been kind, haven't I, Phil? I haven't done that to you yet.
You can go off people really quickly. That's the thing with these groups and these people. Sometimes, like, you meet them and you think, they're all right, really, and then, like, all of a sudden you just think, oh, what? Yeah. But anyway, Natalie, great, yeah. Right, let's see if I can't mute her microphone for the rest of the duration.
Uh-oh.
I'll just sit here pulling faces at the camera.
Yeah.
To be fair, Phil, before we speak to you, Vic, he does have a bell if I'm talking too much, so he can't really say anything. We're equally weighted at the moment.
I do.
So,
uh-oh.
He's not had to use it for a bit now. I've been quite well behaved.
Yeah. I've got to. I do have to use it. I've got it somewhere. Oh, where is it?
Yeah,
now?
see, you can't find it.
It's been so long since I've used it. Cannot find it now. Oh yeah, I can't find it because it's been so long since I've used it. I'll have to invest in Amazon and get a bigger bell. I think one that. I'm gonna have to get a proper ding dong bell. Either that or a foghorn. I don't know. Either way, we'll see.
Thanks.
Yeah. How have you been anyway, Vic?
Oh, just trying to connect all the dots. It never ends, but that's all right, though. That's job security, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's true.
As long as we're busy, that's the main thing, And I know you are a busy man because you have got, if I'm right, I'm just gonna show people at home some of the. I'll just take liberty. Okay, right. So, yeah, you are. Oh, that's me. Hang on. A minute. It's me. Just wait a minute. I always get this. Always have this. Right. Okay. I got it now. Right. Okay. This is your website, I believe. Okay. This is the Bigfoot Eyewitness website, which you use for people when they want to give a report, Vic, I believe.
That's one of them. The main one I funnel them to, a Bigfoot eyewitness who wants to report a sighting, who wants to be a guest in the show. On the Dogman side of things, not only do I speak with Dogman eyewitnesses who want to be guests on Dogman Encounters Radio, but the main thing that I focus on is actually helping Dogman eyewitnesses come to terms with their experiences. Well, on the Sasquatch side, I've got 2 Sasquatch-themed podcasts, but I don't help Sasquatch eyewitnesses who are traumatized deal with their experiences. There's so many other people out there who specialize in that. I just leave that up to them. But if someone wants to come on either of my 2 Bigfoot podcasts, then that would be one of the places they could contact me and let me know that they want to be a guest on one of the 2 shows. The other one is my Bigfoot Sighting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's have a little look and see. Okay. This is the main one. This is the Dogman site. This is the report you encounter, Dogman Encounter. Yeah. So people, make a note. all links are in the description. Also, the QR codes I'll be showing during the show anyway. Okay, so if you're watching this on a PC or on a tablet, you can always like use your phone on a QR code, and it will take you directly to his website. That's the thing I like about your show. It's not just taking witness testimony. It's actually actively helping people that clearly are. A lot of the people are clearly traumatized, Vic, you know. Does it have a? Can I ask you something? Does it have a adverse effect on your life at all? Hearing these.
No, I don't have nightmares. The only adverse effect I have to deal with doing what I do is dealing with all these people who contact me and they talk about these traumatic dogman encounters that they want help with. I try to contact them and fail at every turn. You wouldn't believe how often I get reports from people who they submit the report and talk about this horrific dogman encounter, or at least encounters that are traumatic to them. And then when I try to text them, can't reach them. Try to email them. Either my emails wind up in their spam folders or they just don't respond. And when I call them, most of them have their voicemails disconnected so that you can't leave voicemail for them. So they just wind up being dead ends. So most of my time is wasted like that. I mean, if I do reach someone, you wouldn't believe how common it is for me to set a time to speak with this eyewitness who claims they want help. They're traumatized. They say they need help. They want help. We'll schedule a time for me to call them for a phone consultation. I'll call them and they no-show. And then maybe 2 hours later, hey, Vic, sorry, I got called into work. So that's why I wasn't able to answer your call. And my whole thing is, well, life happens, but where was the common courtesy to let me know, just to send me a 1-minute text message? Vic, I'm not going to be able to do that phone consultation today at 2 p.m. I got called into work. I mean, that's all it would take, less than a minute to show me some common courtesy. So that right there is the only inconvenience to my life that I deal with as a direct result of doing what I do. Outside of that, I love what I do. I love helping the eyewitnesses who are serious, who aren't lying about their experiences. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. But unfortunately, there are a lot of losers that I deal with that it's just one of those things that comes along with this. It really is. And you can't convince me. A lot of people, they'll schedule a time for me to call them and have a consultation. I'll call them and they don't answer and you just flat out don't hear from them. You can't convince me that if you have an encounter that you're having all this trouble dealing with, if you've got one guy here who is just really interested in helping you, he sets a time to call you to try to help you. You can't tell me that, number one, you're going to forget about that call being scheduled, or number two, you just don't care enough to answer the phone. So yeah, there are a lot of hucksters that I deal with, but the positive side of this makes it all so worth it. It really does.
Yeah, I agree. I agree entirely. I mean, so in my short span of time doing a podcast and the lives and stuff, we've come across, haven't we, Natalie? We've come across people where, you know, we penciled in, we've arranged with them, we've spoken to them, we've messaged them for maybe weeks. And yeah, no problem. Yeah, that'd be great. I can't wait, Phil. I honestly can't wait to get on your show. It'd be brilliant because I've got so much to share. And, you know, it's going to help me because I've got no one else to talk to about this. And, you know, okay, that's fine. Yeah, it'd be great having you on. And, you know, we'll give you all the time you need, the patience, the people that are watching. They are a big help as well, you know, because the people on this show, they really genuinely are either researchers or people that understand the trauma. And now it may not be directly with cryptids. It may be we have a large section of the audience which are paranormal or ghost, and you know, but the trauma is still trauma. It's still and that affects people, and they understand that with witnesses when they come on, and they're very sympathetic in the comments. You get the odd one or two which are just complete idiots, but they're soon off. But when they don't turn up at the last moment, which we've had in the past,
a few times, haven't we? We've been excited, and then we've been like, you heard from him, it's like no crickets, and then we're like, oh my god, we've got 24 hours, what are we going to do?
Well, it's not just like, that, is it? It's also
time,
people don't realize that until they don't realize the work involved in getting a show together. So it's not just a case of, oh, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll jump on the phone and we'll host a show. No. It's not just that. You have to get the audio right. You have to set up your speakers. Otherwise, I'm sat here with it. You have to set your speakers up. You have to set your microphone up. You have to put off other arrangements in your life to get this sorted out. You then have to come up with the thumbnail. That takes time. You then have to come up with a little bit of background for the guest you're going to have on. So you have to reference. You have to do a little bit of digging around. That takes time. If they're an author, you have to find out about the book. I'm not just going to have people on and say, right, okay, tell me right from the start, where did it start then? When did it begin for you? And let them carry the whole show off. You can't do that because it's too much for them to do. Okay, can you fill an hour? It's too much for a witness to say, look, and that's what I love about your shows, Vic. You don't just let the witness kind of go off on a tangent. You do interact with them. And I think that's most important, very, very important, to interact during a conversation. And it is a conversation you have, Do you find that?
Well, I found that for the most part, what's going to keep them as comfortable as possible is as much of a conversation as we can make it out to be. Now, about 10 minutes into every podcast episode of Dogman Encounters, I ask them to please tell us about their encounter, give us every last detail that comes to mind, because number one, obviously the listeners need to know the scope of their experience or experiences. Also, number two, when it comes to dealing with a traumatic encounter like that, like a lot of eyewitnesses have who come on the show, it's all about exposure when it comes to their abilities to deal with their experiences. The more times they talk about their experience or experiences, the easier it's going to be for them to come to terms with it. So yeah, that definitely serves a very strong purpose, but also the main focus, one of the main focuses, I should say, is just trying to make sure that these eyewitnesses who come on the show are as comfortable as possible. I've had people come on the show before who have their own podcasts, and they're so nervous you can almost hear them shake, hear them vibrate. So if they get that nervous when they come on Dogman Encounters, it's only natural that a lot of guests will, and they do. But on my end, like I said, I just try to help them be as comfortable and relaxed as possible, considering that we're talking about what in most cases is by far and away the most profound, most terrifying experience these eyewitnesses have ever had. So it's kind of like a dichotomy there.
Yeah, it's like creating a safe space for them, isn't it? Because it is the encounter itself is, like you say, quite an emotional event and a paradigm shifting thing for a lot of people as well. So you've got to try and create a safe space at the same time, and it's and so that they can relax and feel safe to actually tell you about it. It isn't, because that's what me and Phil try and do. We try and create like a relaxed atmosphere, sort of as if we were around at a coffee shop just chatting, and then people start to relax, and then the story comes out a little bit easier. So yeah, it's a skill, really, isn't it? In a way, it's
yeah. They either relax or they're, to such an extent, a lot of them fall asleep, Vic.
We just let Phil talk for a bit. And they put them in a trance.
Vic, how long ago did you start doing your podcast? Is it 2006 or 2007?
Well, I was a co-host on a podcast, a Sasquatch-specific podcast called Campfire Shadows back in 2007 and 2008. And then after that, I didn't air the first episode of Dogman Encounters Radio until August 22nd of 2014. And it's funny, back then, I thought, you know what, this cryptid Dogman, they haven't been explored very well. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a podcast, and they're quote unquote experts. There are no experts in the Dogman field. There really are no experts either in the Sasquatch field, but there are big names in the Dogman field. And I mean, they can be real go-tos. I can have them on the show a lot, and they will have a good platform to say what they want to say, things that they couldn't say on network specials are featured on. But yeah, unfortunately, all the big names in the field turned their backs on me when I started airing episodes of Dogman Encounters. So I literally had to build the thing up from the ground up by myself without any help. But at the time, that wasn't convenient. But now looking back, it actually helped me. So I thank my lucky stars for that.
That's funny, isn't it? Because you would expect like the platform for Dogman being not so well known as the Bigfoot phenomenon, that they would want to support something like that getting out there a little bit.
Oh, definitely. And here's a juicy nugget I've never shared on a podcast before. The biggest name in the Dogman community, the Dogman world back then, I reached out to this individual. I forgot how long it was before I aired the first episode of the show. This was still in the planning stages, actually. I reached out to this person inquiring if they would be interested in being the quote-unquote expert on the podcast episodes. I explained to them what the show was going to be all about and whatnot. I asked this person if they would be interested in being the quote-unquote expert, and I could be the somewhat of a color commentary personality on the show. Well, they didn't have any interest whatsoever in participating, which is totally fine. I mean, it's a free world. If you don't want to do something like that, no harm, no foul. But wouldn't you know it, just weeks before the first episode of Dogman Encounters was primed and ready to air, guess who had someone contact me and ask me if, basically letting me know this person was going to be starting their own Dogman podcast. And the person who contacted me was going to be a member of the podcast, a co-host. And the big name wanted this person to ask me if I would be interested in participating, being a co-host on the show. Well, wow. I said, that's kind of cheeky. I said, well, thanks for asking, but I've got everything in place to air the first episode of Dogman Encounters in just a matter of weeks now. I said, no, I'm not interested at all. So yeah, I just moved forward and I aired the first episode of Dogman Encounters, like I said, on August 22nd of 2014. Haven't looked back from there. And that person, they didn't air a single episode of this quote unquote podcast that they said that they were putting together. At least indirectly, I was told that they were putting together. And then I found out down the road, this person was actually telling eyewitnesses that they couldn't trust me. I would use these eyewitnesses who had already agreed to come on the show and to stay away from me because I was bad news. Well, yeah, that made it really interesting to line up guests early on. So the early going of Dogman Encounters Radio was so much more difficult than it ever needed to be. I was not impressed by how I was treated. I really wasn't.
No.
It's difficult. It sounds like it is a difficult, don't know what the word is. I want to say sphere, but it's like a difficult area to do you find that the Dogman community is different to the Bigfoot community? Because we've said this before, haven't we, Phil, about how the alien community is different to the paranormal community, is different to the cryptid community. Do you find it different between the Dogman and
do you know, they are so different, Vic. They are so different. Honestly, really you've got the Bigfooters. Yeah, you've got the Bigfooters who are kind of like, you know, I often say, oh, well, a type 2 Dogman does actually look and is mistaken for Bigfoot, you know. No, what do you mean, Phil? No, it's ridiculous. No, I never heard such a thing. Tighty, what are you on about? No. What, short? What you mean, squatter, bigger, flatter face? No, that's not taken as a big. They kind of like are so fractured in their own groups. Now, I'm not dissing any group. Don't get me wrong. I'm really not, because I stand alone. I stand independent. I really do. That's why I didn't on Facebook start a group. I didn't want to start a group. I did not want to, because I think it's sort of, in a way, you get a lot of the Bigfooters, and then you get a lot of the Dogman groups. So Dogman groups are the same in their own way. They're quite kind of fiercely independent. And there's very little in the way of bleed over of information between the two. Then you get the paranormal people, the paranormal groups, and the ghost hunters. Now, they pretty much hate everyone. You know, every other group is like going, "Oh no, it's not. It's ghosts, actually. Hang on a minute. Wait. They kind of don't get involved." And the UFOs, the UFO people, wow. Yeah, they're I made the mistake, Vic, of saying once about, I had a guest on, and I had two guests who said the same thing, really, that they got taken aboard a UFO, and they saw a cage on this UFO. And when they mind spoke to the alien, they said, "Oh, what's the cage for?" And they said, "Oh, Bigfoot." And I had another guest who said they saw a Bigfoot on a UFO. Well, I happened to mention this, and I said it's feasible, because very often you find when there people have UFOs and they're landing in a landing area, soon after you see a Bigfoot. So, I said, "Oh, well, possibly, they could be right in that they travel on board UFOs." Wow, the stick I got, you wouldn't believe it. So yeah, I mean, do you find the same with the groups, Vic?
As far as them being fractured?
Yeah, as far as them being sort of, they keep information very much within their own remit, within their own genre.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm convinced that the reason why they do that is everyone thinks that they just have to do that to get ahead. They think that if they help their neighbor out in this community, that's going to hinder their progress somehow. When in fact, a rising tide lifts all boats. If we all cooperated, then we'd all be so much further ahead. But yeah, very few people in the whole cryptid community are where they want to be, in my opinion. And because of that, it seems like almost all of them think that the answer to that quote unquote problem, which it isn't a problem, they think the answer to that problem is to look inward. Well, as far as doing things that might help themselves out, when in fact, if they helped others out in the community, it would still wind up feeding into what they're doing indirectly, and it would just act like a rising tide. So yeah, it really is unfortunate that there's so much infighting, and very few people are happy with where they are when it comes to this. It's just really frustrating. And to answer your question about the Dogman community compared to the Sasquatch community, it seems like everything in the Dogman community kind of mirrors Dogman. It seems like things are more intense and more profound. The nastiness is more profound, it seems like, in the Dogman community, and yeah, it's just really a shame. It really is a shame it's got to be that way.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, actually. Yeah, because I saw Mike Smith put on Facebook the other day something similar about, because he does a lot of the Sasquatch in the LBL, and he was saying about like how people don't seem to want to help each other and communicate and share what they found, their experiences. And it's like you say, it does seem to be, it's strange. I find it strange because for me, my brain's wired for information. So the more information points I've got, And like you say, like Phil said, and the more information you've got around the subject as well, because that's how often you make connections that you wouldn't normally think of. So if you don't sort of look around the edges of the subject and on the borders and everybody's individual experiences, you can miss things that might lead you onwards onto the next thing. So it's kind of sad, really, in a way that people don't really understand that. You know, and then, like you say, moving everybody forward, because if we all understood the phenomenon a little bit better, then it might be easier to sort of progress in it, you know, and further what we know, because sometimes you do feel like you're spinning wheels a little bit with some things, and it can be quite frustrating.
Oh, no doubt about that. Another thing to share about this whole Dogman community, it'd be one thing if we're talking about normal people, well-adjusted people who just needed to get their acts together, but with regards to the Dogman community, there are so many truly acerbic people. I mean, we're not talking about people who, due to this factor, that factor, they just wind up making a bad decision. No, when you're talking about some people who are truly acerbic by nature at their cores, that definitely doesn't help whatsoever either. And you don't have to look far in the Dogman community to find examples of what I'm talking about. I mean, people who just lash out at other people they've never had any interactions with to try to strike them down. I mean, people who make up whole almost entire episodes of their show where they're deriding other people who have podcasts in a hope, I guess they have some kind of a desire to run them down, thinking that if I make your lemonade sour, that's going to make mine sweeter somehow. Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I think that's really the core of the problem.
Yeah, it's definitely communication is an issue. It's like balanced communication. It's like it's almost like if you can't agree with somebody, people are like, I want to destroy you, rather than go, well, you know, we can agree to disagree. You know, it's like, you know, I'll just let you get on with your bits, I'll get on with mine. That's fine. But it does seem to be a case of you if you're not with me, you're against me. And it's like, I'm like, I don't care. But it's like, you know, you do whatever you're doing over there. But yeah, it is funny. Do you think the cryptid itself sort of affects the type of person that sees it, or you know, or because obviously the Dogman is a very different creature to the other cryptids. Do you think that might have might be a factor in the either the way that the cryptid affects people or the type of people that are more likely to see it?
Well, as far as the content creators, a lot of the content creators go in the Dogman field, Dogman community, I think the fact that Dogmen are such extreme cryptids, maybe that has something to do with them attracting such extreme personalities to this field. And then those extreme personalities, when they decide to lash out, they tend to lash out in extreme ways. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't really know, but yeah, I do know that it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to sort of keep an eye out and see if we notice any patterns like that, because I mean, like a bit like Phil, I'm kind of independent of everything because my paranormal background's with horses. As far as I know, I'm the only one that had like a lot of psychic experiences with horses. So then I ended up with like paranormal cryptids and and recently the CE5, and it's just like, so it's sort of expanded, so I'm sort of almost like an outside observer. So it'd be quite interesting to see, like, with each of the different groups and the sort of, the personalities within them. But yeah.
I posted a story on Facebook just to promote, to help promote this, and I had a few messages from people going saying, "Oh, Phil, it's a bit odd you got Vic on, but then you mentioned about the paranormal, and if you like the paranormal and ghosts and stuff, I don't quite get the correlation there." And one of the things I wanted to ask, really, and why the correlation is there, why I mentioned it, I very often find that people that have had interactions with dogmen, almost like that there's the people mention the hitchhiker effect, but they have also had paranormal, you could call them, happenings going on around them. Not just any more sightings of the dogmen, but maybe strange noises in the house, or perhaps maybe things moving, things disappearing, then reappearing. Just odd. It's not just one thing. It seems to be that there's a trickster paranormal uh, entity attached to this in a lot of cases with witnesses. Have you found that, Vic?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I sure have. When I first started doing this, I was convinced that dogmen just had to be some type of critter out there in the woods that was trying to scratch out a living, pun intended. But as I was doing this over some period of time, I would have had to have been blind not to notice that, okay, you've talked with who knows how many eyewitnesses, credible eyewitnesses, who reported things to you that soundly point towards the fact that the dogmen they encountered had to have some type of supernatural qualities to them, probably more accurately said demonic qualities. But then also you've had so many credible eyewitnesses contact you who talked about things that they witnessed that point soundly towards the dogmen they encountered just being flesh and blood creatures with no special abilities. And then you've spoken with tons of other credible eyewitnesses who've shared things with you that point soundly towards the idea that the dogmen they encountered were probably made in a laboratory, in a test tube, a government lab to be more specific. So as far as dogmen, where do dogmen come from? That's probably one of the most common questions that's thrown at me. I think dogmen can have more than one origin. I think dogmen have multiple origins. It just really depends on the dogman that an eyewitness runs into. So, yeah, I mean, with regards to the ones that have supernatural qualities, probably demonic qualities. If you play with Ouija boards, if you live in a haunted house, yeah, there definitely does seem to be a heightened instance of having dogman encounters. So I think there is some there to answer your question.
No, thank you. Because I had I've been on your show, and Vic, it was I enjoyed every minute of it. I really did, and I remember talking about some of my experiences, and you happened to mention as well that you also had experiences yourself. Was that with the cryptid side of things or more paranormal side?
Well, I
What do you
had
mean?
one experience years ago that I'm convinced I saw a ghost, but outside of that, yeah, I've had 3, 4 experiences. It just might have been Sasquatch. I don't have any confirmed sightings of Sasquatch, only experiences that I believe were related to Sasquatch. The first one was about 45 years ago when I was deer hunting in the middle of absolute nowhere, where I'm convinced, due to the factors, I had a 1,000-pounder literally just feet behind me in an old growth forest. But yeah, like I said, no confirmed sightings where I can say yes, definitively, that I saw a Sasquatch.
It's very elusive, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's frustrating sometimes. It's like, because you have people that, like you say, that they've seen them straight up in their face right in front of them, and then like other people are like, I'm not sure what I saw, but I think it was this. And but like you say, the variety of encounters, it does make you, I think that's what casts a lot of the doubt on the subject area, with sort of like people that are outside the area, as because of that variety of going from like really vague to really certain, and then back to really vague again. And that makes it's such a sort of controversial area as well.
I think it's also it's very subjective because the witness testimony is subjective to the witness. It's very hard to find very few cases that have backup evidence of maybe footprints that they can get casts of, or fur that they can get analyze and test, as well as the initial sighting. So that is the absolute elusive part, with these things, because there is no confirmation. If you had a confirmation where they would turn up in Walmart or in Asda's or somewhere like that, by the frozen food section, and there was a whole mass of people kind of like looking as a Bigfoot came in, that would be great. That's what you need. But because that doesn't happen, and it happens when people do witness these things out in remote areas, it's hard for the witness itself. It's hard at the time for the witness, and I think it's hard also, for the witness to recount, like with yourself, Vic, to recount it, because you have to be quite brave to say, look, I did see this out in the woods, and I know you're all going to think I'm bonkers, but I'm not. I saw this. So it's, all kudos to witnesses that come forward like that, because there's nothing backing it up. So really more kudos to them. You've been on a lot of shows, Vic, podcast shows. I wanted to ask this question. Like, you've been on the Southern Belle Bigfoot podcast and others. What is the one cryptid question you were secretly hoping we don't ask, that you don't get asked? Is there any kind of question you think, oh no, I hope they don't ask me that?
A cryptid question?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm an open book when it comes to that.
That's lovely. Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. No, that is good. That's what I was hoping, to be honest. Yeah, that's what I was hoping. With some of your accounts that you've taken from witnesses, what would have been the I know, listening to your show, the one that stood out in my mind, and it was the one with that trucker that let his dog out to go to the toilet in some woods by a diner, and he heard his dog squealing and howling, and he went after into the small copse of wood, and he saw this massive, big type, as I call it, type 3 Dogman, the chiseled upper, broad-shouldered, diamond-shaped body, small waist, massive legs, holding his dog up. And listening to that guy, I actually was driving and I pulled over. I had to pull over because it affected me so much. I was like, my heart was just, he was really upset when he was talking to you. Do you have any of your witnesses that you've had in shows, do you have any that stand out for you that you think, my word, that is just absolutely incredible?
None really stand out, but understand, I mean, I've spoken with so many eyewitnesses, so many Dogman eyewitnesses over the years. The volume that I deal with is just through the roof. For example, 14 minutes ago, another report came in from a Dogman eyewitness. I don't bat an eye if I have 3-4 brand new Dogman encounters come in from people I've never heard from before. Some days I'll have as many as 7 or 8 brand new Dogman encounters come in from people I've never heard from before. So doing this for years and years, I spoke with my first Dogman eyewitness back in 2007. The exposure I've had to all sorts of different kinds of encounters, it's really hard to remember the details from this particular encounter and that particular encounter. People ask me, they'll contact me and they'll send me an email and ask me, have you had any encounters come in from Oneida County, New York State? And I just, I've spoken with so many eyewitnesses from New York that I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I really couldn't tell you. It'd be like asking a mechanic, well, how many spark plugs of this brand have you replaced? And nothing of note happened when you're replacing this spark plug on the number 2 cylinder. I mean, it's just because of the volume. It's really hard to do that. It really is. But yeah, I mean, once in a while I'll talk with an eyewitness and I'll say, wow, that was really a bad encounter. But as far as ones that really stand out above the rest, those are really few and far between. There's one that took place in a sawmill that comes to mind as being a particularly bad one. But yeah, the ones that are really over the top, I don't have permission to share. But also, too, same thing. I mean, I've spoken with so many eyewitnesses, it's really hard to remember enough of the particulars from any of these given encounters to effectively share the experience, the encounter, in a venue like this.
Yeah. That sawmill one, I remember that. That was the one with the group of young boys playing in a sawmill, wasn't it?
No, that was a different encounter there. That one you're talking about, that one happened in Ohio, but this one happened in Oregon, where this woman was working as a security guard, and she was outside. She was working the 3rd shift, and she was working alone. She had a helper who was supposed to be working with her that night, but he wasn't going to be able to make it in until, I guess, a couple of hours late. Well, sometime in the middle of the night, she was standing up against the back wall of the sawmill right next to the door, had the door open. No one else was there. And she had her foot up against the wall, I think she said, and was just smoking a cigarette. And then there's this big woods, a vast woods right there behind the sawmill. And all of a sudden, this Dogman made its presence known to her. And when it did, she went darting into that door, went running across the floor, up the catwalk stairs, up into the catwalk that was way up in the ceiling of the facility. And as she was, I guess, getting pretty close to the top of this long set of stairs, all of a sudden she could feel the bang, bang, bang. You know, it will jar you if something heavy is climbing behind you. Well, yeah, guess why she felt that? For the obvious reasons. Yeah, the Dogman had come in and was heading up the steps after her. So she darted across the catwalk, the network of the catwalk up in the ceiling, way up in the ceiling of this facility. And then she wound up racing down to the shop floor. She darted through the door that led to the offices, and she decided to dart into the lunchroom. And then she was hiding underneath one of the tables in the lunchroom. And after hiding under the table for some period of time, she decided to muster the courage to look up over the table at the wall where there are these long windows in one of the walls in the room. Well, when she did that, not only did she see this Dogman that had initially made its presence known, there was a smaller one right next to it. Both of them were looking right at her, staring daggers. So she wound up running for this door in the side of the break room that was close to the front door of the facility. She ran through the hallway, busted out of the front door, out into the parking lot. And when she did that, towards the edge of the parking lot, she saw where her helper had just arrived. So she ran up next to his car in this total panic, understandably so. And she told him about what had happened. And I just gave you the Cliff Notes version of what she actually went through. But yeah, understandably so, she was beside herself. So yeah, experiences like that, they really do stand out. But it's so hard to remember the details of these experiences. It really is, because I'm exposed to so many.
No, I can imagine, because you just have so many. Would you say, in your experience, with people coming forward, that at the moment there's an increase in either or Bigfoot or Dogman?
See, that's the thing. I hear it said all the time that Dogman encounters are ramping up. if they were, I'd be the first one to notice it. There is no increase in reported dogman encounters. I'm not getting any more encounters now than years and years ago. It just seems like dogman encounters are more and more in your face because of our increased ability to communicate. The whole dogman phenomenon is becoming better known to the general public. But for those who've known about them all along for some time now, yeah, there is no ramping up of encounters that are being reported. Because like I said, if that was the case, I'd be the first one to know.
Mm.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, so that's why I thought, well, because they have this with Bigfoot at the moment where they're saying that, and they have said, about 2-3 months ago that, the Bigfoot in Ohio, there was a lot more sightings going on. And I thought you'd be the guy to know if there was an increase in any sightings. You would be one of the first to know anyway. Do you find that with people that come to you, and do people, because initially you were Dogman orientated, with Dogman being the primarily your main podcast, do you find that it was hard to break into the Bigfoot podcasting? It was hard was it a natural progression because people came to you with stories of Bigfoot, or was it a case that you wanted to go into the Bigfoot accounts and started searching around? Or did you find that it was a natural wave that happened? You started getting accounts from Bigfoot and you thought, oh, do you know what? I'm gonna organically start a podcast dedicated for this.
As far as Sasquatch would go?
Yeah, Vic.
Well, that's what people knew me from originally, since I was a co-host on that podcast in 2007 and 2008 called Campfire Shadows. That's how I got my toe wet, was dipping my toe into the whole Sasquatch pool. And then I transitioned over to focusing on the Dogman side. So, yeah, I mean, as far as starting the 2 Bigfoot podcasts, that seemed like a natural progression. The main thing behind that was to effectively do what I wanted to do, to really focus on helping the Dogman eyewitnesses. It was really difficult to work a full-time job and do that. To work a full-time job and help the eyewitnesses that needed help, and to do all the work required to professionally produce Dogman Encounters Radio, it really was difficult. So yeah, creating the 2 Bigfoot podcasts was pretty much a necessity to make it so that I could just focus on just helping the Dogman eyewitnesses. And then also that would enable me to produce the podcasts as well. But when you can have conversations that last over 4 hours with just one Dogman eyewitness, and that's just one conversation with that particular eyewitness, yeah, it takes a lot more time to do what I do than most people would ever believe or know.
Yeah, 4 hours is a long time, isn't it? Is that just on one encounter in that instance?
Yes, actually over 4 hours, 4.5 hours. Recently, I had one that was 4.5 hours, and I've had other long ones. You'll have other long ones too sometimes. It just depends on what that eyewitness needs, how much help they need, how many experiences they've had that need to be dealt with and gone over. So yeah, I mean, it just really, it just varies. The guest from episode 227, who unfortunately had really traumatic encounters, hers really stands out in my mind as being a situation where the conversations with her were really long. But yeah, between there and the most recent one, yeah, there have been others that have been well into the hours long. But whatever it takes to help an eyewitness feel better, then by all means, let's do it.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, it can take some people longer to process, isn't it? It's like in the need to go over it a few times just to Because, like, I suppose a lot of them, like, if you don't believe what you've seen either, but you know you've seen it, you need somebody to keep sort of reminding you that you're not nuts, and that you
Yeah.
know, sort of take you seriously. Because that is a big problem, isn't it? When people, you want to talk to someone and they're not take you seriously,
sure,
what you've
sure.
you know, what you've seen
Big
and what you've
aspect.
said.
Oh,
So
definitely. And that's funny. That reminds me, you talk to all sorts of characters when you do what I do. But yeah, that reminds me, some of the characters, a perfect example of some of the people I deal with. I had a guy contact me, and you're going to love this. Had a guy contact me some time ago who, when I scheduled the conversation with him, because he said he needed help coming to terms with his dogman encounters, I scheduled the consultation with him. I called him right on the dot, not at a minute to, not at a minute after. I called him right on the nose, the way I always do. And then after I said hi to him, the first words after that out of his mouth, when I asked him to tell me about his encounter so we could get down to brass tacks so I could try to help him, he said, well, before I do that, I want to know what your credentials are, in that type of a tone. He said, I want to know what your credentials are. I'm not going to just tell anyone about my encounters, about my dogman encounters. What are your credentials? Oh, wow.
Does I have a little
Yeah.
name badge here? It's like I wear my name badge.
It would have been quite cool to have asked him, well, what credentials would you require to satisfy to satisfy yourself that you can relay your account to me? What do you actually need from me? What, you want me to
It's
be a
like
professor?
Dogman Special Investigations.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the Bureau of Special Investigations, Dogman Division.
I'll put a poll up, people. So anyone in the chats, we've got a lot of people in the chats. Any questions? Please do put a capital Q, all right, before you write your question. That way Roxy, the admin, can pick them up, and the moderators in the chat can pick them up and highlight them. Okay, bring them to our attention, and we'll deal with the question and answers in a little while. In the meantime, I have put a poll up. The reason I put a poll up is because Vic is quite legendary when it comes to, he's got over 9 hours of dogman encounters in one sitting. And I put a poll up saying, and to answer this, you just put either in a comment 1, 2, 3, or option 4. That's all you have to put, just a number. Yes, number 1, I survived all 9 hours. Number 2, I tried, but I got too terrified. Number 3, I have to listen in smaller chunks. Or number 4, not yet, but challenge accepted. So let us know on that one. I'll leave that poll up just for a little while. Remember, that's all you got to do is put a number up on there. Vic, can I ask you? I mean, I know that there's certain traits. Well, let me say it another way. Instead of asking a question, I know there's certain traits that dogmen have. There's certain tropes, if you like, that they seem to have an inherent in every witness testimony. Namely, first one, very often they seem to smile at the witness. They seem to have this smile that the witness sees and is very unnerving. Have you come across traits like that in the witness accounts you've had? Have you had like what's the word? Come on, Phil. Like a pattern form for you that you've noticed?
Oh, sure. Yeah, doing what I do, it didn't take long at all before I started noticing patterns like that. Yeah, their tendency to smile at eyewitnesses, which is fitting because I'm convinced you could only talk with so many eyewitnesses before you notice the pattern that a lot of these encounters, the overwhelming majority of these encounters, are forced to happen so that the dogman can get a rise out of the eyewitnesses. And the smile that's reported so frequently, it's obvious the dogmen are enjoying the heck out of what's going on, because they forced the encounter to happen because they wanted what's happening to happen. When they see that look on the eyewitness's face, that the eyewitness is mortified, that's why they forced that encounter to happen. And it seems like they almost feed on it. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. It's hard to understand how something with a face that's constructed that way could actually smile, but given their intelligence, apparently they can. And with that in mind, I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that they do.
So you don't think that that's possibly just a behavior rather than a smile? You know, it's like with you know how dogs, we sort of think of them as smiling, but they tend to relax their mouths, don't they? Does everybody actually literally sort of seem to interpret it as they're smiling at you, as if to say like, hey, I've got you now?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, a lot of them are just convinced that what they saw was definitely a smile. The dogman was clearly really enjoying what was going on. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of eyewitnesses who've reported encounters with these things where the dogman didn't anything that seemed to be close to smiling at them. But in cases like that, maybe we're talking about dogmen that were just naturally occurring. Maybe we're talking about dogmen that were created in a government laboratory. I don't know what the answer is to that, but yeah, for the ones that do smile, yeah, maybe we are talking about demonic entities that look like dogmen, made themselves look like dogmen or look that way. And because they're demonic, naturally, they're going to love fear. They're going to love tormenting people. And when they see that their actions have caused a human to be that fearful, well, they're going to love that. So that's just a potential way of explaining it. We don't know anything about dogmen. We don't have any clear-cut answers about dogmen. All we can do is guess when it comes to pretty much everything to do with these guys. But to me, that's a pretty likely explanation for why that sort of thing is reported.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, because if it's something masquerading as a dogman, or if it is an entity that is dogman-like rather than physical, then it could morph its features. And like you say, if it's playing with them, then you could always almost imagine them like, there's a human, I'm going to go prank it now. It's like, this is going to be fun. But yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. And it's like, yeah, it's because, like say again, we're splitting the phenomenon into several categories, aren't we? Because of certain traits and patterns. But yeah, it's just curious that everyone does interpret it as a smile. So yeah, that would make a lot of sense, though, to be fair.
I'm going to put another poll up for people now. I pretty much know what the answer is going to be on this, but I'm just going to put it up just to see what people feel. Okay, and the poll is: which of these cryptids do you find the most terrifying to hear stories about? Number 1, Dogman, no question. Number 2, Bigfoot is definitely scarier. Number 3, both are equally terrifying. Or number 4, neither. I want to go find them. So you know, people, just let us know how you feel about these things, because I think they are in their own right equally terrifying. I know a lot of people are going to feel that Dogman is more terrifying. Do you now you've witnessed a Bigfoot, and 1,000 pounds, that's a heavyweight. That's a heavyweight. How did you feel when you saw it, Vic?
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't have any definitive sightings. I never did see a Sasquatch that day when I was deer hunting all those years ago. It was just circumstantial evidence that makes me convinced that it had to be a Sasquatch, 1,000-pounder behind me. Understand that, yeah, I've had my experience with horses, and because of that, I know what it feels like to be standing close or right next to a horse, 1,000-pound horse. a 1,200-pound horse when it whinnies, or most notably when it does a blow. Now, for the people listening who don't know anything about horses, or they don't know much about horses, horses have a unique physiology. What I'm getting at is, unlike us, unlike other animals, they cannot breathe through their mouths. Horses can only breathe through their nostrils. Well, have you ever wondered why horses clear their nostrils so often? Why they snort? That's why. If you could only breathe through your nostrils, you'd be obsessed with keeping them as clear and as clean as possible too. Well, because of that, when they get one up their crossways or something else, they'll do what's called a blow. Instead of doing a normal snort, they'll take a deep breath and do a concussive, forceful exhalation where they empty their lungs right now. And that volume of air that's coming out right now, basically in the form of a cough through their nostrils, it's like a concussion. It's a concussive force. I mean, if you're standing close to a horse like that and you're not expecting it, when it does a blow, it'll scare you out of your boots. It's startling as all get out. And you feel it too. Well, when I was leaning up against that tree in the old growth forest, I can't remember if I heard the whinny first and then I heard a blow, or if I heard the blow first and then the whinny. But nonetheless, once I heard those sounds and I mustered the courage, I looked around the tree and it was an oak tree. I looked around the tree in one direction and I was on the side of this huge hollow. To get to the bottom of the hollow is probably at least 100 yards, and probably at least that much to get to the top. And it was a steep slope too. Well, the slope was so steep, a horse would have been crazy to try to navigate down to where I was. Also too, I'm in an old growth forest. It's in the fall. It's in November. This was opening day. There was tree trash galore on the floor of that forest. So for a horse to get anywhere close to me, I would have heard it. I would have heard it way off. But I didn't hear anything working its way to me. I didn't hear anything leaving. So I looked around the tree trunk one direction, didn't see anything. I looked around the tree the other direction. I didn't see anything. If it was a horse, I would have seen it. If it was a horse, I would have heard it approaching, and I definitely would have heard it leaving. The time that passed between I heard that last sound and when I looked around, there wouldn't have been any way that a horse could have gotten out of my sight up and over the top of the hollow. So through process of elimination, I can't really think of anything else that could have had lungs big enough to make it have that kind of lung volume, i.e. the lung volume of a 1,000-pound horse that could just disappear like that. So that's why I'm convinced it was a Sasquatch. Now, can I say I saw one? No. Can I say I definitely know without a doubt that's what it was? No, I didn't see it. But you tell me, if it wasn't a Sasquatch, what was it?
To be fair, when horses make that noise, as a horse person myself, it's usually an oh shit moment because that usually means they're about to do something stupid, like bolt. It's like, or speak. And it's like, so if a horse had been making that noise in the forest, it would have been about to spook and disappear very quickly, in which case you probably would have heard it anyway, wouldn't it? So it's, but Sasquatch are known for mimicking animals, aren't they? I think, and animal calls. So it'd be quite amusing if you'd been pranked by one.
It wasn't amusing that day.
I'll bet. You'll be like, what is going on? I bet they thought it was amusing though. You'll be like, let's
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they do seem to have a sense of humor, from what I can gather. Some of them do seem to have a bit of a sense of humor.
Yeah, they do seem to have a healthy sense of humor, but I sure wasn't feeling it that day. I think every hair on my butt was standing up.
I was going to say, you were nearly the one snorting and smooking off into the distance.
I was ready to.
Yeah. I don't know what you'd have done if you had actually turned around and seen, so it's probably just as well you didn't, to be fair, at that point.
Oh, no doubt. What's creepy is he was probably with me since before sunup, because I was there before the sun came up.
Okay. So yeah, I've been keeping an eye on you since. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure that he could have reached a hand around either side of that tree that I was leaning up against. It was an oak tree in an old growth forest. I don't know if he would have been, he was a big old boy, I'm sure, but I don't know if he would have been able to reach around that tree trunk on either side still because of the size of the tree. But if he would have done that, holy cow, it wouldn't have been pretty at all.
We spoke to Daryl Denton a few weeks ago, and he was telling us about his first Sasquatch encounter, and it frightened him so much. I mean, he's a very tall guy as well, apparently. Did he say he was like 6'7" or something? And it's like he was like, he literally jumped 20 foot out of a tree and ran back home to his granddad's onto his granddad's farm. And it's like, you know, because he'd seen something he wasn't expecting to see, and it's I wonder how many hunters have turned tail and just like out of the woods on their first sighting. But
I'm sure a lot of them
and then, with horses and dogmen, dogmen are, and there have been accounts, and I've been told that the dogmen will rape horses. They will actually abuse them like that. There's, you know, they instinctively don't like dogs, other dogs. They would torture cats, which I guess goes with the territory being a dogman. But with horses, they and I do have accounts of in funny enough in India, of horses having scratches down its back, you know, deep scarring. It's a strange thing of horses. I'm not sure, being not a horse person myself, would a horse, if Sasquatch or a dogman is near, would the horse know, do you think? How would it reply?
I find it hard to believe they'd make a creature like that, or the dogman in particular, because horses have a natural fear of predators. So it's like, I can't see how they would make a horse stand still. You know, it's like without speaking it. So it's sort of like when I first heard that story, I was a little bit not sure about that one. The scratches on the back I could understand if the dogman had like jumped up at it and caught them out. But they are naturally very spooky animals. So for a horse to stand there and be interfered with, I find very difficult to believe.
There's there's a few accounts where people have been in woods, and they've sort of, you hear about accounts of Sasquatch and them hearing Sasquatch in the woods, but then when you ask about the horses, they kind of like say, well, no, the horses weren't freaked at all. The horses weren't, they were just tied up, but they weren't freaked out. Or you're like, I don't know horses very well. I'm not a horsey bloke, but I would have imagined, you know, that, as you say, Natalie, they would freak out and try and bolt. A horse would, if they saw 1,000 pound Sasquatch.
I was going to say, with the dogman, I would have said they were more likely to freak out. Sasquatch, they might not bother, because if the Sasquatch aren't behaving in a predatory manner and they're used to seeing them around, they might not bother because their behavior, from what I can gather, is very different to a dogman. So, I mean, like say, dogmen still behave in a very predatory fashion. They look still like predators, whereas Sasquatch sort of like, because they're part of the forest in the background, if the horses are used to seeing them, they get used to, you know, they get used to things. So they perhaps don't, you know, if they're ones that they've seen before or they know of, then they might not, they won't spook. They spook at unusual things, anything that's out of the ordinary or anything that looks like it might eat them. It's like basically horses live. That's why they run away a lot and spook, and the snorting that Vic was saying earlier. It's sort of they They live to not be eaten. So anything that looks like it might eat them, including wrappers on the ground and leaves, it's like spooks them. But if they're used to it, you'd be surprised how blasé they can be. But so Sasquatch, I could believe that the horses wouldn't necessarily react to them if they have seen them or are aware of them in the background and they've not been a threat. Like I say, but Dogman, I find hard to believe that a horse would accept anything like that anywhere near it. So, but that's just my personal opinion. I don't know. I've never seen a Dogman, but I have possibly had forest spirits around our horses, and the horses don't seem to be too bothered. But I don't know if that is the same as Sasquatch. But yeah, they didn't seem to be too fussed by it. Well, mine wasn't. The other one did freak out a bit, the weird owl noise it made. But yeah, the others seem to be okay. So I don't know. Jury's out on the Sasquatch one. What do you think?
Yeah, what do you think?
Being a horse person?
Oh, I think in pretty much any case, if a horse saw a Sasquatch, it would freak. Even dogs, in almost every case, whenever a Sasquatch approaches, they absolutely lose their minds. Horses being a prey animal, the way they are, with so many years of instinct behind them to flee anything like that has both eyes on the front of its head. Yeah, I'm convinced that anytime they saw a Sasquatch, and also Sasquatch, they tend to put off this aura that just frightens animals anyway. So I'm convinced if a horse saw a Sasquatch anywhere close to it, it's going to bolt. When it comes to a Dogman, oh, definitely, times 10. Anything that looks like a Dogman, you better believe if it's in the same zip code that a horse is going to bolt. And that's just another frustrating thing that comes along with doing what I do. People trying to lie their way onto the show. Perfect example, and you know the answer to this, Natalie, knowing horses the way you do. What are you going to think when you have a quote-unquote eyewitness contact you and talk about this traumatic encounter they had where they were in West Virginia horseback riding with their buddies and they were the last one in line. They were all riding their horses up this very gradual hill, a long gradual hill, and they're almost back to the barn when all of a sudden this poor eyewitness, he's just riding along again, last in line. And next thing you know, out of the peripheral vision of his right eye, he sees a 9-foot tall Dogman come walking up right next to him and his horse.
Yeah,
it just comes walking up next to him. And then it swats him off of his horse. He falls on the ground. And yeah, there's a story that goes on about the rest of that. But what are you going to think when someone contacts you and gets that far with their story?
Yeah, I would start questioning it at that point, because if he said he was riding back, he was trailing behind, he saw in the distance, his horse sort of like looked over in the distance and they both saw something, and then the horse spooked, he fell off, ran away, and then he was left behind, I would believe that. But to have a Dogman actually walk up to your horse and swipe it off the back of your horse without your horse doing anything, I know.
Exactly.
You'd either be off in the hills at 5,000 miles an hour, or you'd be dumped on the floor. And it's like, there's no way of getting into, unless he'd leapt at the horse. But even then, that would have to be out of the underbrush, if they hadn't seen it. But yeah, I would question the credibility of that one quite significantly. Because even a quiet trail horse isn't going to let that happen.
Oh no! And as you know, you can't sneak up on a horse. You ever try to sneak up on a horse? You just can't do it.
No, especially not when they're out of their home environment as well. They tend to be, like say, even the quietest horse, their instincts are never that far away from the surface. It's like there's no such thing as a really tame horse in many ways, especially when you're out. So yeah, no, I would question that one too, definitely. Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but that's not uncommon to have that sort of thing happen.
Wow. No. But then again, like you say, it's the details. It's like if you've got those details and horses, like you say, you can question that evidence then. So I suppose in a way that does help you sort of like pick apart, the accounts. So that, even if they were absolutely adamant, you could question them on the horse's behavior, and that would lead you, down to certain other bits of information that they might, wouldn't be able to make up if it had happened. But if you'd said, well, how did your horse react? And it's like, they'd be like, well, just stood there, and you just were like, right, okay. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, no, totally. But yeah, that one's going to amuse me for a bit.
I've got to ask you this. Well, I've got you. What do you? I mean, you don't have to answer, Vic. I'm not because it's a very controversial topic. But with the, I often find that they have the ability to interact or make themselves a blur when somebody tries to take any footage of them, either Dogman and for that matter with Sasquatch as well, but Dogman specifically, it's very hard to get any footage, anything definitive, anything which is you could take to the bank. Do you believe that with all the controversy going on with the Bigfoot world, I think you know what I mean? Do you think that that it was it's justified that people kind of like doubt the authenticity of that said film, let's say the Patty film?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is. People believe what they want to believe. In a world where things like Sasquatch and Dogman don't exist is so much more comfortable of a world than a world where they do. So unless it's just proven to these people that without a doubt these things are in existence, they're never going to believe. And I understand why, for the reasons I just laid out. So it doesn't surprise me that when this latest morass about the PG film came to the forefront, that so many people are just pointing at that and saying, okay, see, this is why it was just nonsense all along. But yeah, there are a lot of holes with this latest explanation on why and how the PG film was a hoax. You just can't get over the fact, you cannot get past the fact that back then in 1967, we just did not have the technology to make a suit that would look that realistic. So if we didn't have the technology to make a suit that would make a subject in a film look that convincing, mind you, we're talking about to see what the limits of our abilities were when it came to making suits like that. All you have to do is just watch Planet of the Apes, the original film. That was leading edge technology when it came to making suits like that back then. Well, compare those ridiculous looking suits in that film to what was in the subject that was in that film, and instantly any attempt to try to explain away that subject in the film as being a person, a man in a costume, just falls apart right there on the spot. So if you cannot reasonably explain how that subject that we saw in that film, how it was created, i.e. a suit or by whatever other means, then any hopes to try to label this as being a hoax falls apart. So I'm convinced for that reason and others that the Patterson-Gimlin film is totally legit. That was a Sasquatch in that film.
Okay. Interesting. No, it's just I find it very difficult from the point of view of it, for over a period of 60 years since that film's been taken, there's been nothing as clear. These entities, if they don't want to be seen, if they don't want to be photographed, they won't be photographed. So it just it beggars belief that with the PG film, that how they got that so clear. Now I know they were using, I mean, with the suit, yeah, I get it. It's like there's been toing and throwing about that. You had Rick Baker, Stan Wilson expressing skepticism in the day about the suit. Rick Baker was famous for Harry and Henderson's his costume work on there, and he said it was fake fur. He said he believed it didn't look real, but it's not that really. It's not so much the suit. It's or that does it for me. It's the camera that they used. I was like, the camera in its day was a very expensive piece of kit. It's not something you would just take out and use. It was I know they were in the process of hoping to film a documentary, but I kind of like, it's like me, the equivalent price of that camera now would be £10,000 or $10,000. Sorry, $10,000. And you're going to take that out on a whim that you might possibly see a Bigfoot, or take it out thinking, okay, I'll film a documentary. Whereas most cameras in the day were, Cine 8 films, 8mm, not 16s. I don't know. I still, I'm not sold on it, but I reserve any right until I see this, capturing Bigfoot documentary that's meant to be coming out eventually. But it seems a bit suspicious why it's taken so long to come out in the first place, to be honest.
I've got a rebuttal to that point if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, please do.
It'd be one thing, Phil, if you're looking to film butterflies so that you could take the footage home and just let your daughter see the footage. But to try to prove the existence of an unknown hominid like that, if you had the means to procure a very high quality camera like that, would you do that? Or would you just go rent? And that's what they did. They rented this camera. Would you rent the best camera you could possibly rent? Because he didn't have to purchase that $10,000 camera. It wasn't 10,000 back then, obviously. It would be the equivalent of a 10,000 pound camera today, present day. But mind you, he didn't have to purchase it back then. He just merely needed to rent it. And that's a big difference right there. Well, if you're trying to prove the existence of an unknown hominid, this is big time here. Again, wouldn't you want to rent the highest quality camera you could get your hands on to do that so that the footage was as clear as possible? Or would you just go out and get the cheapest piece of junk camera that had the capability to film? So in my opinion, that would fit. The fact that he didn't have to come up with 10,000 pounds to get his hand on that camera and use it. He merely had to rent it, which would be much more affordable, even for a guy like him who wasn't exactly wealthy, to say the least. Those two factors, you'd want the best quality camera you could get your hands on. Number two, he didn't have to come up with a huge sum of money to get his hands on that camera. He merely had to rent it.
Yeah. No, I get it, and it's a mute point. You made I appreciate that. Their camera to rent and the film, which was the Kodachrome 2 color, in itself was expensive. If I was renting a camera, state-of-the-art camera, and I wanted to rent it, I would have to have more insider information on the location I was going to be sure that my, let's say, purchase of rental was going to be worthwhile. I was going to capture Dogman or Sasquatch at that area at that time, because otherwise, how long would I have to rent that camera for? Which takes fantastic shots for its day. How long would I have to rent that camera for to make it viable? The expenditure on the rental of that camera, because I've captured something which cannot be previously captured or since, clearly. Do you see what I mean? It's just sort of, it's a point in time where, okay, I'm going to go off to my local woods, but I'm going to go rent the equivalent. Probably it was $100 back in the day. But that's a lot of money, especially, you know, to Patterson at the time. So, you know, that's a lottery. That's kind of like putting a bullet in a chamber and sort of swiveling the chamber. You're not too sure if you're going to get anything for that money that you've rented on that day. So it kind of, I mean, they did, and they were really lucky they did, because that was well rented. That was very well rented. You know, that was at the correct time, the correct place, everything bang on. And that's sort of my life. Do you know what I found? I have plans. I have loads of plans all through my life. None of them worked out. My life has been basically half chance and guesses. Just, you know, a lot of times when you go out and you sort of see dogmen, it is like the paranormal. Absolutely. I've been out on paranormal ghost hunts where you find nothing during the duration of time that you spend in that haunted house. You find nothing. You get nothing. Your K2 doesn't go off. You get no interaction on the EVP. Nothing. The moment you go to leave, the moment you pack up your stuff and you switch the camera off, then you get the tap on the shoulder. Then you get the door closing with no breeze coming through. It's then that you get your trigger object, the bell, it dings. And it's the same with dogmen. It's only after, so when you least expect it, that you actually see it on with your vision. It's then that you see it, and it's. I remember once I was out and I saw a type 1 dogman, which is old shook. It was by a tree. The dog was going crazy. Ruby and Bears were really, and they're pointing, and you know, I put them on the lead. They're pointing and pointing and pointing and looking into the woods. They were tracking something. I couldn't see a thing. I got frustrated with the dog. I was like, oh, come on. Seriously, guys, like, I want to let you off the lead, but I can't, you know, because you've seen something. It's either, usually with Jack Russell Terriers, it's squirrels. And I've had Ruby, Jack Russell Terrier, I've had her up a tree, and I'm being serious. They're like coon dogs, you know. They'll chase up a tree, and then they squeal because they can't get down again. And I thought, no, I'm going to keep you on the lead. And I looked across. I thought, there's got to be something. What is it there? And type 1, like an old shook, black shook. I would say it's slightly smaller than a horse. Looking behind a tree. But what I'm getting is, I would have walked past that without even knowing. And I had cameras on me, and when I went out with the dogs, I go thinking, well, okay, you know, these things don't leave you alone. I'll go with a camera because just in case, you know, I capture something. But I didn't have the dogs, I wouldn't have seen that. They're very they almost have a sixth sense. They do. They know, you know, they know that when people are there, and they know when people have cameras. I'm sure of it, you know. But who could tell, you know? I would like to see the documentary when it comes out. Definitely capturing Bigfoot and see what it you know, see what it coughs up. I had one person in particular say, "Oh, well, you know, kind of they were bought off to say that." You know, my reply was, "Well, who bought them off?" You know, but yeah. So with Dogman, you think it's both ethereal and physical at the same time?
Well, I think you have dogmen that have different origins. I think you have some that are spiritual beings. I think you have others that aren't. I think you have others that are just flesh and blood creatures with no special qualities, no special abilities. I think it just it depends as far as which one you encounter. If you have a Dogman encounter, is really just the luck of the draw. I think you have the other kind that probably were created in a government laboratory. Anytime someone tries to explain away their existence as far as them having an origin that is this in this category. Well, all dogmen, I watched a documentary on dogmen where this guy came on and talked about being an expert government operative who worked with some type of government program where they were created in a government lab in a test tube. Well, that might explain away some encounters with these things, but definitely not all. How about the encounter back in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan? That's the first documented dogman encounter ever. You can explain that encounter away as being one that was created in a government lab. And then as far as the others, you can talk with credible eyewitnesses who clearly had experiences with one from each of those three categories that I laid out. Some might even have alien origins. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I think by nature, personally, I think they're they're supernatural. And I think the supernatural is so alien to us because we've grown away from nature. We've totally kind of like, because of the lifestyle we lead and society's demands upon us, we've left a lot of the supernatural behind. We do have some traits. We have some vestiges, not traits, vestiges of supernatural within us. One being a gut feeling. Very often hunters, very often investigators out in the field. Hell, people sometimes when they go into a room full of people, they don't know those people, but they will get that feeling, that gut feeling about a person they're talking to. That person may not be right, just something off. That place may not be right, just something off, and they'll get that feeling. Some people call it sixth sense. And I think that with what we may be dealing with personally, I think could be in the very essence of it supernatural, and it's so alien to us because we are not. Our senses are crap, our hearing's crap. Well, we have a very narrow spectrum of sight when it comes to light and what we can see and the wavelengths we can see. Our smell ability to smell is just rubbish. And I think with the way we're going, I think we're when we see these entities, when we see these beings, I think they are scary to us, and they are perhaps out of this world type things, mythological almost, because we're the ones who've moved away from them. They're the ones which are more natural, possibly, but that's my own thoughts. I don't know what you think, to that, but
Well, to be able to answer questions like that effectively, I'd have to have so much more information about these guys than I'm ever going to have. All I can do is guess about things like that. I don't think we're ever going to really be in a position to effectively answer those questions. I really don't.
no, it's a difficult one. It is a hard one because it's yeah, it is. It's one of these things. The one thing I find very odd with all the accounts that I've heard on your show is the deep emotional trauma these people suffer. A lot of the people have suffered so much and reoccurring trauma as well, even after years after the sighting. Do you think that fear factor? Do you think it is something which is because the dogman is they're worried that the dogman's still tracking them, tagging them? Do you think it's that, or do you think it is genuinely because of that one incident that they've caused them so much trauma? PTSD, if you like.
Well, the answer to that question might have more than one answer. It might be because the dogman they encountered had some ability to project fear, if it was a demonic entity, for example. Part two of that might be to do with the fact, and I'm pretty much sure that a lot of it has to do with the fact that when you've been living a lie and it's revealed to you that you've been living a lie in such a profound manner, such as you go from one moment being told all of your life that, okay, things like dogmen aren't out there, they can't be out there, to all of a sudden you just bump into one. Well, there's a dogman right there. It's looking at me, it's smiling at me, it's doing what it can to torment me, to terrify me. And then it's revealed to you unequivocally that you've been living a lie like that. That's going to be such a shock to your system. It's only natural. It's going to knock you off your base, so far off your base that you're going to have a lot of trouble coming to terms with it. So I think the answer to your question might be twofold, or there might be more than two answers to that question as far as that goes.
Yeah. No, it's well put. Well put. Absolutely well put. You know, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think it's definitely it's something that they have, and once again, you get a bleed over into other areas. I mean, Natalie, how many times is it that you kind of like you know, been to an area where you've that woodland where you find you know, those strange structures, and you capture those like the faces. That fear is kind of like, even though it's even though, you know, you're quite an analytical person, you still get that fear, don't you? You still pick up on it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't help but react to it in a way, can you? Even if your brain's going, it's not going to hurt me, there is that just that sense of being watched by something, doesn't it? It it always kind of triggers the old senses, doesn't it? But you never really get over that. I think you just learn to control it a little bit, rather than just going straight to your right brain and running away. But,
yeah.
I think the elephant in the room when it comes to why we respond to these encounters the way we do, how we respond to them, I think the biggest reason is, more so than any other species of animal on the planet, and yes, we are animals. If you breathe, if you need to feed, if you're born, if you die, you are an animal here. More so than any other species, we have to be coddled to be comfortable. I mean, what other animal out there needs all the comforts that we need? It's ridiculous. Yeah, the comforts that we need, they're ridiculous. If you take a person and drop them out there in the middle of the big woods in Wisconsin in December, naked, how long are they going to survive? You take a cottontail rabbit who's not nearly as strong as we are, not as big as we are, drop it off in the woods like that, it's going to thrive, because we have to be coddled to be comfortable and to exist. And that goes for our mental side of things as well. So yeah, it doesn't take much to set us off our base. It really doesn't. So it's not surprising to me that when people have dogman encounters, it affects them the way it does.
Have you ever come across anyone with a positive dogman encounter, Vic?
Yeah, I have.
You have?
Not as far as anyone encountering an altruistic dogman, but people encountering dogmen where the dogmen could have clearly tormented them, frightened them, but it's clear the dogman did things to try to avoid frightening them. So as far as a dogman encounter goes, I consider that to be a positive one.
I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared completely out of my wits, and that's a good thing. Yeah, I just wonder, because obviously, you know, like with the Bigfoot, you have incidences of people where they're sort of like gifting from the Bigfoot and gifting to the Bigfoot. So there's obviously a more positive element to some of the interactions, but it does seem to me like with the Dogman, it's always basically, I was either terrified or thank God I wasn't eaten. It's like, and he didn't want to eat me that day. It's quite curious that particular cryptid seems to have that there are no positive relative, like positive encounters. It's either neutral or into the being scared. But yeah, that's quite curious.
I've got a real quick question for all three of us and people at home as well. I think it'd be really cool to just find out if we were actually recording this out in the woods and we saw glowing eyes right out there now, and they were creeping up on us, these eyes. What is your immediate survival strategy, and who is going to get left behind out of three of us?
Let's see. Well, so you're asking me what I would do next after I trip Natalie. After I trip Natalie, I'd probably stomp you in the knee, Phil. And then after that, I'd pull my cell phone out so I could take photos of what happened to Natalie first, and then to you, and then I'd have all the proof I needed. So yeah, that's how I'd handle it.
Well, at least we're contributing to science. See me. I was going to be nice and say, well, me and Vic would be on horses, so we'd be fine. So we'd just like gallop on out of there and leave Phil behind.
I got one. If a Dogman and a Bigfoot got into a turf war over who gets the best podcast ratings, who is winning that fight and why?
Well, that's a common question there as far as Dogman fighting Sasquatch. And if you think about it, if you take a man, for example, who is 250 pounds, if you take the average man who can take care of himself, who's 250 pounds, say this person is 6'4", and you put him in a room that is 15 feet by 15 feet with a 140-pound Rottweiler, there's a good chance that Rottweiler is going to be the one left standing, unless that guy has some very good training, knows what to do, how to handle himself with a dog like that. In most cases, that 250-pound man is probably not going to win that fight because of the weapons that dog brings to bear. And I'll do you one better. If you're talking about a Sasquatch fighting a Dogman, the Dogman has claws, really formidable claws, whereas a Rottweiler doesn't. A Rottweiler has one way to harm you, and that's with its jaws. That's why when people learn how to fight a dog like that, they are taught how to basically make it so the dog can't bite them and basically to choke the dog out. But when you have something that has claws too, that are more formidable than a grizzly bear's claws, in addition to ridiculously sharp teeth, very big, powerful jaws, I mean, even if the Sasquatch is quite a bit bigger than the Dogman, unless that Sasquatch can literally one-shot the Dogman, then it's probably going to have its hands full. And also, too, it's easy to think that since most eyewitnesses report seeing 6-foot-tall, 7-foot-tall dogmen, some 8-foot-tall dogmen, it's easy to think that that's about as big as they get. But no, there are very credible eyewitnesses out there who have reported seeing 12-foot dogmen. So how big would a Sasquatch have to be able to deal with a 12-foot-tall dogman with 5-inch long talons on the tips of its fingers and the strength to be able to push on a fifth-wheel trailer and make it rock up onto wheels on one side of it? Sasquatch would easily be able to do that as well, but don't think for a second that dogmen aren't strong, because they most definitely are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. All right, let's see if we got any questions from the comments as well. We just want to give a quick shout out to the people in the comments. We've got Daniel Williams. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for joining us. Got Kate. Hello, Kate. Thank you for moderating. We've got Dawn, Sasquatch Sister. Thank you very much for all of you guys. I really appreciate you coming on. Keith Ashton. Hello, mate. I hope you're keeping okay. We've got Goldfish Paranormal. Oh, no idea. Right, we've got Carl 2241. Thank you, Carl, for joining us. We've got we've got Stu from Paranormal Walks. Good to see you, Stuart. I love it when you go around with your dog on the walks. It's just it really winds Stu up because his dog looks like a beagle, but it's actually a Jack Russell. But I always call it a beagle because it doesn't half look like a beagle to me. But yeah, it's got identification issues, I think, ID issues on it. Roxy, have we got any questions that we can bring up from the comments, please? Question is, where is Vic from?
The projects of Whoville.
Okay. Right, have we got any others? Question, is there any country that has not had a Dogman sighting?
Country? Well, there are so many countries out there. I have no idea. I will tell you, these guys are all over. The only continent I could think of where I haven't spoken with an eyewitness about their encounter is Antarctica. But these guys are all over the place. It depends on the country. I mean, if the country doesn't have the resources that would cater to a dogman, I could see it, like maybe certain places in northern Africa, but they might be there too. They're definitely survivors. They've been seen in deserts. They've been seen in high mountainous country. They've been seen in the lowlands and swamps. They've been seen in Arctic areas, all over. So where can't they live?
Yeah. No, that's it. That's the thing. And, they've been seen for centuries. Absolute centuries been documented. People are, these things are real. People do see these. People do see these things. I know myself. They are out there, and they're closer. A lot of times, I don't mean to scare people when I say, you often find that you'll probably, hopefully, this will strike a chord with you, Vic. A lot of investigators and researchers go out hiking for miles and miles into the forest, maybe an hour and a half in, 2 hours into a forest, in hopes of looking for the Dogman or traces of it. You often find that it's a lot closer to home. It's maybe in your local wood, where you live, or in the city, in the suburbs, in a local wood where you are. They're very much closer than people think. But I'm not saying that to scare people. I don't want to scare people because, like a lot of creatures, if you leave them alone and don't threaten them, they won't threaten you. They won't cross your path. A lot of times if you don't cross theirs, just to put people's mind at rest. Do you find that as well, Vic? Or
Well, I mean, I've had a sample size of eyewitnesses where basically I've spoken with people who had encounters inside major metropolitan areas. How does LA strike you? I've had conversations with people, or Detroit, LA, places like that, major metropolitan areas. I've had conversations with eyewitnesses who are way out. I think there's just like a balance. You can bump into one of these things anywhere, way out in the sticks, just like in town.
Yeah. Have you had anyone come forward that actually talk to you about a encounter in a large metropolitan area? Have you ever had that, or maybe in a subway?
Oh, sure. LA, Detroit. I recorded
wow.
a show with a woman who she was supposed to come on the show, and we recorded the show where she talked about an encounter she had in LA, but because I wouldn't let her name the episode, she threw a fit, and I said, well, thank you for your time. It's not going to happen. So yeah, it's just one of those things. But LA, Detroit, never had anyone come on and talk about an encounter inside Boston, But yeah, they've been reported inside the city limits of Boston, of Cincinnati, of Cleveland, Chicago. Yeah, major metropolitan areas, Dallas. It definitely happens.
It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it's just you can't. It's hard to get your mind around that. How they would travel. You know how they would get around without multiple people seeing them. Which makes me think that I was told a long time ago that they use tunnel systems like tubeway tunnel systems sometimes with cities. You know, to sorry, hold on. Right, okay. I'm just gonna check. Yeah, the microphone is on now. I just had a slight technical. Okay, right. What we've got to do, we're going to wrap this up because I'm having a few technical issues here. Is that all right with you, Vic?
Oh, I've got to go tend to the animals anyway, so no, that's fine.
Okay. Listen, Vic, I just want to say thank you very, very much for coming on. I do appreciate it, and I loved being on your show. It was great, and I had absolutely enjoyed it, and I'd stress to people go and listen to that. It was my true account of my first werewolf encounter, which I recorded on Vic's show. Yeah, so just check out all his details, description, everything else is below. You'll find it. He's a nice guy, and if you've got any accounts, hit him up as well, because he's got a hell of a nice way about him with dealing with people, you know. Just can't help but like you, Vic, to be honest to you. Ever such a nice guy. And thank you very much for coming on, man.
Well, thank you so much for having me, both of you. It's been a great time. And if I can ever help you guys out in some way, let me know and I'll be there for you. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Vic. We shall say goodbye. And Pete, everyone at home, thank you very, very much for joining us. And till next time. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.